Welcome back to another episode of MotoGP Match. I'm here tonight with Jake. Welcome back, Jake. Ghost is on holidays and Sleepwalker is working ahead of going to the Armoy races this weekend, which hopefully he will share some amazing footage. I think it's the second last or third last road race of the season, so definitely be good to get that. So how are things with you, Jake? How was your week been?
Same old. Go out, take a ride. I go out and ride every day since I'm retired. Go around, try not to get run over by cars. So It's been 100 degrees here, so it's, I only go out for 10, 15 miles a day. But I switch bikes. I do one every day.
So which one was it today?
Today was the MV. The MV F4RR, the real worked one.
Right.
God, it's like a pure race bike. I'm flying, I have to keep it going because I don't want it to get hot, blasting by cops. And at least, thank God I know them all. At least they wave when I go by. Every kid on a Gixxer, I just blow by them, erase them.
And which of the bikes would be your favorite of your bikes?
God, they're all so different. Because you got the Ducati. I got a new Ducati. At BMW is like the old man's bike. The old man's, because it's so easy to ride. The H2 is just fun because of the acceleration. But I guess the MV is the most capable of the bunch because that was worked by X Bikes in the UK. They sent it over via computer to the to Montgomeryville Cycle Center here, and they put the tune in and did the airbox and the exhaust and everything else. So about 10 grand worth.
So she's fully tuned, and likes to bark. So yeah, she can breathe out.
Yes,
with the ECU, which I suppose that's a class thing. I suppose
handles real well too. You wouldn't think so, but they handle phenomenal.
Yeah, until you try to put real horsepower through it.
That's I'm at 215 now, so it's about. Don't forget that engine's 20-some years old. It has Hemi heads. People forget.
Yeah, it's quite.
They squeeze that thing until you can't squeeze it out anymore.
You can't get any more out of it. Yeah. I don't know. Were you watching the Formula One at the weekend? Our dear old world champion made an appearance in France. He is actually. Do you know something? Something I don't know that a lot of people know, but he's actually Lord Fabio. He got a French knighthood, actually.
Really?
So whatever the French version of a lord or whatever.
Well, if Mick Jagger can be a sir, why not have Fabio be a lord?
Exactly, yeah. And I was just like, it was actually Ted. Ted said it on one of his pit lane walkthroughs and whatever. And I was like, I actually didn't know that he was knighted for the World Championship. So there you go, another bit of useless information just to fill you up. But I suppose over the weekend we had World Ducati Week, which actually appeared quite fun. Very kind of disgusted that I didn't get an opportunity to go there. What did I see? I saw Simon Crafar got a go of Pecco's MotoGP bike, actually.
Really?
He did. And I don't think Simon Crafar was actually expecting to have a go off Pecco's MotoGP bike. But
I know he got on the Aprilia already. Yeah. Now he's gonna hit.
But yeah, he actually got Pecco's champion. Or I don't know whether it was this year's or last year's. It looked like this year's. And they were all goon riding. All the riders were goon riding around. It was actually very funny, and only Jack Miller could actually do and get away with this. But himself and Rinaldi decided that they were going to swap bikes halfway around the track. So Jack was out on his MotoGP bike, and Rinaldi was out on his World Superbike. And halfway around the track, Rinaldi was like, I want to have a go of Jack's bike. So they did a bike swap, and they came back into the pits then. So I don't know. Now saying that,
I don't know if Ducati is too happy with that one.
Wait, but what are they going to do? Fire Jack?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, and I do think
Fired again.
Yeah, I do think Ronaldo's probably on his way out of the World Superbike team. I think they're actually going to bring Petrucci back from the Moto America. That's just my own belief. I've heard nothing of it, but we haven't seen anything of Ronaldo. Now, I do watch, and just a disclaimer here, I do watch World Superbikes, but I watch it on mute because I can't stand James Tolsman's commentary.
Really?
It's the most dry balls commentary you will ever. Not a bit of personality in it. Do you know what I mean? More. And look, he's a two-time world champion. Massive respect for him. Terrible commentator. But anyway, he was. Yeah. So look, I think it was also a bit of fun. Also, I don't know. Did you see? This was brilliant. Was that Pecco brought Gigi and what's his name, the other fella, out on the two-seater, and
they still have that.
They still have that, but when Gigi came in, they asked him how to get on. He's like, he was pushing, and he's like, bastard. Johnny scared shit out of him. And I think it was Chibati as well that went out on the back of it, and like he scared the life and soul out of him. Probably the funniest one was, I saw it again on Instagram, was that Pecco brought the girlfriend out on the bike, right? And the poor girl, before she got on the bike, you could see her rattling. Like, she was absolutely shaking with fear.
I would too, wouldn't you?
And when she came back, I'd say there was a terrible smell from behind her because she looked absolutely petrified.
I bet you he was sleeping on the couch that night.
For a few nights, I'd say. You know what I mean? But you know, it looked like a really good weekend. That was on the Saturday. Obviously, then there was the race of champions, which Bagnaia had won. Kind of really expected him to win. Now, saying that, maybe I did expect a little bit more out of the world's the Superbike guys, and because they were all on the RSV4s, so you know they should have been a little bit, I suppose, up to speed on that a little bit better. But anyway, yeah. So look, it's definitely interesting that he's back. You know, I do think it will set him up a little bit nicely for next weekend or the weekend in 2 weeks' time when he goes to Silverstone. Get him back into the groove. Because you have to remember they've had no racing for 4 weeks right now.
Yeah.
So, be definitely interesting. Yeah. Other than that, that's kind of all the major news. I suppose while we're on Bagnaia, I don't know, did you see recently he did give an interview about his teammate or his next teammate, whoever it was. Now he doesn't want to get into the argument of who that's going to be, but he does want to make sure that the person that they would bring in is not going to cause a war. You know?
No, but despite the fake news that's coming out, some of these sites are saying he's really mad and he's demanding this. He's not. But he does want somebody that's going to get along. He doesn't want to have it like Rossi and Lorenzo. You know, they have to have some continuity between each other, especially with no testing. I mean, now riders or testers, you have to have one in the other. Look at Ducati. They had a test for the first 5 races. They just because they didn't have enough stuff. You know, they didn't have enough time.
Yeah, and that's I think you're right. Jesus, like when you look back at the Rossi versus Lorenzo when that wall went up, like, you know, it's going to be counterproductive.
Yes.
There, like at that stage, Yamaha were very lucky because they had a bike that worked well. You know, and if I do believe that you're right, they did find themselves in the situation that they found themselves in the start of this year, you know, and the two riders were at war, I think it would be disastrous for them. They'd never gel it. You know what I mean? Especially like if they made the same mistakes developing this or next year's bike as they did with this year's bike, you know, and having three different engines realistically.
Yes. Yeah, they said they didn't have two. They didn't have two parts that would work the same in any of those engines. So they had three engines running. Okay, and I don't think it was the fact that they went wrong testing. It was just that they ran out of time. And that the last engine, the hybrid engine, they had just put it in and had no testing for the first race. So they were testing as they were racing for Bagnaia's bike and Miller's race. They were testing from race one on. I was shocked that they got anything straight.
Yeah, and look, like he was open. He was fairly open with it, saying every time I throw my leg over the bike, it's a completely different bike. I didn't realize. I thought the first time that they ran the hybrid engine was Mandalika, but probably like the first time that they put a massive load on it, like a race load or whatever. It's probably right. It was probably Qatar was that weekend for it. But yeah, I think, you know, it's one of the main things that they, and I do think they need to be careful because the two people that they're looking at bringing in, like Martin, you know, was very much so throwing his toys out of the pram. If I don't get the Ducati factory, I'm off, right? So he's kind of setting out a stall to say, you know, I want to be the favorite child, and if I'm not the favorite child, there's going to be a problem. And then Bastianini is he's cocky. Now look, they're both, don't get me wrong, they're both very talented riders and they both deserve to be cocky, right?
But if you're good and you're a rider, you're going to have ego. I mean, we all do.
Yeah, but I think it's just they care for what they do. Just a toxic team dynamic, I suppose. In that field. Yeah, look, it's definitely going to be interesting. Another topic actually that I do want to talk about, and I think it's going to roll on for the rest of the year, is that the rookies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have like Bezzecchi is top rookie points wise, from Di Antonio, Darren Binder, Remy Gardner and Fernandez. So what do you think of the rookies? What do you think of the overall performance? Like, how do you think rookies this year are comparing to rookies last year, for example?
I think they made a step up, especially with Bezzecchi and believe it or not, Binder. I mean, he really surprised me coming up from Moto 3. I didn't think he was going to do anything, to be quite honest with you, because it's such a bridge going from a bike that has 65 horsepower to one that has 325 horsepower.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a whole new animal.
Yeah.
You know, how do you learn that instantly? You think jumping from a super bike to a MotoGP bike was hard? Imagine going from a Moto 3 bike to a MotoGP bike.
Yeah, and I actually, you're right about that, because like Toprak said when he switched to the MotoGP bike, he's like, you know, the speed didn't really impress me. It wasn't but the brakes. Do you know what I mean? He's like, oh. No, and we all know he's a brake man, right? So you know, like he loved that. And like, can you imagine going down the straight on a Honda Moto 3, right? So nearly sucking in as well to try and make yourself more aerodynamic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So stepping out onto these, and like for me, I think he's done really well. And I know I've taken a bit of flack in one of the videos that I did, but I do think, you know, he had the potential to be overriding this, throwing it down the road every weekend, and he could get perfectly and legitimately get away with it, right? Because he's a rookie.
Right.
And he's a rookie up from Moto 3. So, like, if you look at him compared to what Jack's doing, or Jack did, I think he's.
I was about to say that. Yes.
I think now, look, Jack was on a Honda too, right? And you know, Honda front ends.
Yeah,
but
rear
saying
ends.
that, and rear ends now, yeah.
I think we're the only site to hear on the internet is honest about Hondas. I mean, everybody else dances around it all over the place. But anyhow, go ahead.
I think I'll be getting a letter from Mr. Pooch.
I dare him to give me a letter.
Shut up now. But you know, I think he's done well. Now, look, for me, there's no doubt Bezzecchi is class of the field, but I still always go back to, right, it's so hard to judge, and some people aren't impressed by Binder, but for me it's so hard to judge what Binder has done. Put him on the Ducati and where would he finish in our own mindset, and like, I think he'd be number 2 rookie. I genuinely think he would be ahead of Gigi Antonio, still behind Bezzecchi, but I still think he would do really, really well.
Gigi Antonio, now I might catch flag for this. It seems like he did well on tracks that he's already been on and mastered. Like he did well on his home track that he's had 1,000 laps on. And it's hard to judge somebody when they do well on a single particular favorite track and they look good.
Yeah, I think he's had a couple of good weekends though. I think he did.
Well, yes. I mean,
so look, he's not afraid of the top 10. Let's call it like that. Joe,
yeah.
He has visited the top 10 more than Davi and more than Morbidelli.
Yes. Yeah. But and that's hard to judge because look at the Yamaha and look at the Ducati. I don't care if it's a year old, you know.
Yeah. Like we go back to the whole Ducati's problem where they ran out of time. My view is that they had probably one of the most perfect bikes at the end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And they fell into this very, very simple problem. How do you make the perfect bike better? It's only tweaks.
I have a theory on that myself. Go ahead.
Yeah, they should have only tweaked that bike. Not done what they did with trying to reinvent the whole suspension and thing. I fundamentally think that bike was conceived with the front ride height device as one of the main features of that bike. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was the big change, and that was what all the changes that were made was to have that. And it's taken, in my view, it's taken them a while with Öhlins to backtrack all of that at the first part of the season. Now they had the engine mapping issue and all of that. That's fine, but you could see it with Pecco with the crashes. Like he couldn't trust that front end.
Yeah.
And the rear. I suppose the rear went a few times to them as well.
And don't forget, they went for mega horsepower with the GP22, not the 22 and a half or the hybrid, right? And you know, when you add 30 horsepower, then you start to have chassis problems. I think they were afraid. They thought Marquez is going to come back and he's going to be so strong. How do we beat Marquez that is such a good rider? The bike isn't good enough. They panicked. We're going to have a bike that's so fast that even he can't catch us. And now you have chassis problems from the 22. Because anytime you add, people don't understand, if you add a bunch of horsepower to chassis, it screws it up. It's much easier to make a chassis, because I love race engine chassis engineering. It's much easier to go with the lower horsepower route, like Yamaha has and Suzuki did. And you see what happened with Suzuki when they added a bunch of horsepower. That sweet handling bike wasn't sweet anymore.
Still not either. And look, I just think it's very interesting, and like with the rookies, we won't really go into the KTM guys. I think we talked about them a good few times, but I think out of those three, like Bezzecchi hasn't won, right? Bezzecchi nearly crashed in every race now, and he's still going to win Rookie of the Year. But I'm still fascinated with the VR46 team's conundrum now. You know, like, okay, yes, Marini is on the 22 Works bike, which was not great at the start of the season. He's there now, and more or less with Bezzecchi, right? So it'll be interesting in the second half of the season if Bezzecchi beats him in the second half of the season.
He probably will.
Where does the works bike go next year?
I don't
Do
know.
you give it, do you give it to Marini? Do you, Joe, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like going, right, because if they go, like, now Bezzecchi is loyal to VR46
Mm-hmm.
until he doesn't feel valued, right? Common Racer 101, like, right?
Yeah.
So if he beats Bezzecchi, or if Bezzecchi beats Marini in his first year as a rookie and has a good fight with him and beats him when not just because of the first part of the season where they went right. If he beats him in the second half of the season, he's going to be like, well, lads, I am a talent. So,
Yeah.
yes, I might have a contract for next year, but I'll be gone the following year if you don't value me. Like, you know what I mean? I won't. So, I think personally, I think that's what could come in. But
I'd give Martin. I'd give Martin his walk. Martin. I never pronounce the name right.
Martin.
Not. Oh no.
Marini.
Marini. I'd give Marini his walking papers.
Very hard when you're at the boss's half brother.
I know. But yeah, that.
Yeah. Marini has been open and said, "Look, I want to get into the Ducati factory team. That's one of his goals."
It's every rider's goal.
Yeah, whether that will happen, I don't know. I think there's a long queue in front of him. If I'm very honest, he is a world champion. He is a hell of a rider. Is he an alien or a potential alien? No, he's not. That's just my view. But then actually talking to Ducati, Alex Marquez on a Ducati next year. If Alex Marquez all of a sudden becomes a regular top 5, top 7 rider,
which could be. It's not out of the ballpark.
How damaging do you think that would be to Honda?
Oh, they'll hate it, and I think they might have. I think that they might have signed him just for that. That was like an upuse to Honda for hitting him with a. They're not happy about the ride height. I think that might be a little payback for that. Yeah,
maybe. Well, look, I think the main reason they signed him was that I think Gresini is going to be its main sponsor. Will be Strela Galizia next year, which is the beer sponsor that I think Marquez brothers are personally sponsored by. But I do think, I think it's his second coming or it's his last chance, whichever it is. Like if he goes on a sorted 22 and still provides just a top 10 backwards, 10 backwards kind of feeling, then I don't know. I think it could be over for him. Do you know what I mean?
I would think it would be at this point. Yeah. He's been given every opportunity.
Exactly. Look, he's had full works bikes this year. Okay, the Honda is not a great bike this year. No. If he gets a 22, which will be sorted by the end of the season, or even if he has it, and I don't think he'll end up on a 21. But if he goes on a 22, I think, if I'm honest, and he doesn't perform, I think that's probably the end of him. If he does perform, it's kind of a PR nightmare for Honda that someone can walk off your bike and then come back and be a top 5, top 7 rider that just kind of shows the world, and Pooch, and the Pooch army can sugarcoat it all they want to. There's an old bike, there's a new bike. Anyway. Yeah, so I just think it'll be interesting for next year.
Yeah, I think Poog's sugarcoating days have been seen through. He's like the Biden administration in the United States. I mean, he can talk all he wants, but nobody's buying it.
I have no idea about politics in the United States, and I don't.
Oh, you don't want to know.
Yeah. Anyway, perfect. So, listen, we're going to wrap it up there for this week. Nice and little short one. Thank you so much for coming on, and we will do something next week. Will be Oh, next week's podcast when we do it will be for race week.
Yeah. Ooh. Imagine an actual race we'll get to talk about.
We get it. Yeah. We get to talk about Silverstone, which will be, which will be coming up that week. Oh, yeah. So it probably won't go out on the Saturday. It'll probably go out before it. But yeah.
Question for you.
Yes.
Being a limey as you are, Silverstone. Correct me. Isn't Silverstone one of those odd tracks? Like a unique track. It's not a fast track. It's not a slow track, but it's a unique track. If you know what I'm getting at.
It's fast with awkward corners.
There's
a few oddball corners there, and that we go through it next week. But it's. I'll put it to you this way: if I had a long lap penalty, this is the place where I'd want to have it, because it's the shortest long lap penalty. Not like Aragon, where you have to go through like 5 fields.
Yeah, you go through the parking lot.
Yeah.
Get up, grab a hot dog at the stand, come back out.
I can't see someone losing more than 2 seconds during the long lap, because it happens in what's called the loop area, which is a very slow part of the track. But literally, you go out, you do a V, and you come back. Like it's tiny. But look, it'll be definitely exciting to do that next week. And thank you again for coming on, and we'll wrap it up there.
And G'day, folks.
I just want to take a minute to also thank you for watching my videos and the support that you've shown so far. If you haven't subscribed already and you would like to subscribe, it would mean an awful lot to me if you did. I'm starting this channel realistically so that we can all enjoy MotoGP together, with the aim of streaming a live video when the GP races are on.